all of you please to mute your microphones and perhaps put us on to speaker view. And also if you could go to view options and choose the 50-50 side-by-side view, then you'll be able to see who's speaking and also some slides that we'll have. We will be taking questions as we go along, so please put them into the chat view, and then at the end we'll answer the questions. If you could add your email address with your question, so that if we don't have a chance to answer your specific question, we'll come back to you personally afterwards. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Erica Wax, who will now speak to you about Impact 100 London.
Thanks, Anila. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first virtual sneak peek at Impact 100 London. I love seeing all of your faces. There are a number of old friends. I see some newly minted founding members and also lots of new faces too, which is fantastic. My name is Erica Wax, and I'm the co-founder of Impact 100 London. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, especially given the circumstances. It's true that we are all in this together, but we are also each experiencing this moment in very unique ways. Personally, I feel incredibly lucky most of the time, but I'm also dealing with pretty severe insomnia, and I have days when I can't concentrate and I feel like I'm in a complete time warp. So, I know, we're also all hearing every day the dramatic impact this is having on the charity sector. And we know that charities working with women and girls have been chronically underfunded. Now we're seeing demand for their services skyrocket. And at the same time, funding for these essential charities is dramatically declining. The other day, I read that traffic to the National Domestic Abuse Helpline website increased by 156% in February and March, which is not surprising, but it is staggering. So with that, I'll just start by saying I'm going to speak for a few minutes about the impact model. Lani Martin, my co-founder, will then speak about our mission and the need. We'll then have Liz Ivazian, our grants chair, speak specifically on our grants process. And last, Anila Shuckberg, who works across both grants and membership, will moderate as many questions as we can get to. So for those of you who don't know me, I have a long time passion for empowering women and raising the aspirations for girls. I've been working on this initiative for the better part of a year with a terrific team, all of whom are on the call today. And our goal is to establish Impact 100 London as a permanent and essential new philanthropy in London. A year ago, we could have never imagined how critical and how timely our core mission would be to provide grants to local charities working with women and girls in London. Initially, I learned about the impact model from my friend Wendy Block, who founded Impact 100 Fairfield County in Connecticut about 6 years ago. 5 years on, they have over 240 members and have invested over $1 million in their local community. So what is Impact 100 London, and what do we plan to do? Impact 100 London is based on a highly successful model of collective philanthropy that was developed in the US about 20 years ago. There are now over 50 Impact 100s who have invested cumulatively over $80 million in their local communities. We've spent a lot of time adapting various aspects of the model to London in the UK. And it's very exciting as we are the first Impact 100 to launch outside of the US and Australia. So at its simplest, we will recruit 100 people to each contribute £1,000 to build a fund of £100,000. Alongside, we have a rigorous grant review process, at the end of which we'll present 3 charities to members, who will then each vote on which charities receives our collective funds. By pooling our money together, we will be able to make transformational grants to organizations based in London. So there's many things I love about this model, but I'll tell you my top 4. It's egalitarian and democratic. Each member puts in £1,000 and gets 1 vote. It's transformative and high impact, acting as a catalyst to raise awareness and leverage membership expertise and additional resources. It's local. Our grantee organizations will be based in London, serving beneficiaries who live in London. And it's flexible. Members can be as involved as they want to be. So I'm very pleased to report that we are actually nearly at our goal of 100 members. I really hope that you will consider joining us if you haven't already. And one of the first things that Wendy told me, Wendy Block, that is, from Impact Fairfield, was to find a killer partner, that I couldn't do this alone. And so this is where Lani comes in. I'm going to pass the baton to Lani now.
Thank you, Erica. I'm also incredibly grateful for each of you to join us today and have an interest in Impact 100 London. As Erica mentioned, we're all affected by COVID-19 in our own way. Mine is extremely minor, but very visual. I've lost 3/4 of one of my front teeth, and dentists are not considered essential workers. So please forgive me if I try not to smile or put my hand in front of my face, but feel free to have a giggle at my expense. Like Erica, I've also had a long-standing engagement with charities focused on women and girls. So I was really thrilled with the opportunity to join her as a co-founder of Impact 100 London. And working with this incredibly talented team and of dedicated executives, it's been a privilege. And in retro, timing couldn't have been better. Not that we anticipated it, but we really feel that this is an incredibly meaningful thing to be engaged in right now, that we're really going to be able to make a difference. In founding Impact 100 London, we initially decided we really needed to focus on what was our true mission. And the main component of that is that we want to focus on giving transformative grants to local charities that benefit women and girls in London. Additionally, though, we have an opportunity to build a community of engaged philanthropists, and in doing so, to shine a light on some of those charities, the essential organizations that are operating for the benefit of women and girls right here in our backyard in London, and hopefully to expose them to more access and greater resources. So the next thing that we really focused on was to establish that there was a real need for incremental funding in this category. And just stepping back, we said we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just, of course you want to follow your heart, and we wanted to follow our heart, but we wanted to look at the facts as well. So we did an extensive amount of research over a number of months, looking at the whole universe of charities that are focused in this area. We spoke to charities, foundations, philanthropists, amazingly supportive and helpful and generous with their time and advice. And really importantly, very encouraging that what we're doing is not only focusing more funds potentially in this incredible need, but from a new audience and in a new manner. So what we confirmed, and I think it's clear to all of us now with the lens of COVID-19, but that the charities working with women and girls have always been chronically underfunded. And at the same time, they're serving the demand of an essential need. And that's really increased year over year here in London. There's such things as domestic abuse, sexual assault, trafficking. I mean, the list really goes on. Homelessness, the hidden homeless. But as Erica mentioned, in the outset, her example of the domestic abuse factors, the impact of COVID-19, these services are more critical than ever, more in demand, and yet the funding has become scarcer given the environment. So we're happy to be placed where we are right now. And what we're offering our founding members is the opportunity to join us and to participate in awarding a £100,000 grant to a women and girls charity sector here in London, just in the next few weeks. And really to be able to take our each individual £1,000 and make a real impact. We're already in the full swing of our due diligence, and Liz is going to address that in a moment in more detail. We will be presenting our finalists from that process that are going to be available for your vote in terms of this Founders Grant. That we will make that information available in May, or the selection in May, and we will choose the grant in early June, and the funding will be simultaneous. We will not necessarily give the entire 100,000. We may do a multi-year grant, or most likely, but we will be providing funding in June to those charities. We've learned so much in looking at these organizations, and I can assure you that each of these finalist organizations will be equally worthy of this award. And what we're really hopeful is that with your help, we may actually exceed our goal of 100 members. And with the added benefit of gift aid, we could be in a position to also award merit grants to the other finalists, which would be a real advantage for them and a real sense of that we've really accomplished something for us. We will be awarding that in June, but additionally, as Erica mentioned, this is really something that Impact 100 London, that we want to be a permanent philanthropic organization here in London. So shortly after that, as early as the summer, we're going to be actually launching our regular grant cycle and the fundraising campaign for the 2021 year. And as founding members, we would love if you would choose to join us at that time for our first full grant cycle as well. So with that, I'd love to turn it over to Liz Avazian, who is the chair of our grants committee. And again, she'll walk you through more of the process that we went through in our charity selection and the due diligence itself. Liz?
Thank you, Lani. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz, and I lead the team that is doing due diligence on the charities, with the goal of bringing 3 to the membership for a vote in June. The team that does the due diligence is composed of 7 people. 5 people are from the leadership team, and we have 2 new founding members who have joined us and are contributing their really valuable skills into the process. We collectively have substantial experience in financial analysis, charitable governance, and also social investments. So right now we are in the process of doing due diligence on a handful of charities, but we started with the list of charities that are registered with the Charities Commission as based in London, operating in London, and benefiting women and girls. And then, as Lani said, we spoke to many people, both on the funding side as well as charities. And that really helped us to understand the landscape of these charities. It helped us also to narrow down the list. So our selection criteria are, of course, women and girls, London focus. We're looking at charities that target marginalized populations, and 3 additional criteria. Charities that are registered with the UK Charities Commission, and that is to ensure a certain level of accountability, at least 3 years of audited accounts, and that will give us enough data, enough results, so that we can take a look at the progress of the charity and also assess how well the charity is managed. And finally, we're looking at charities with a total annual income of 500,000 to 1.5 million pounds. So charities of that size range tend to be more agile, to better serve their clients, their client needs, and also tend to be more established and therefore have a more financial resilience. For this first grant, we've proceeded by invitation. So we looked at, we did a desk review of many charities, and then we proceeded to invite a few of them. We've received applications on March 27th. And since then, we've been doing the assessment. This week, we've focused on pretty much the last piece of the due diligence, which is final calls with management. Instead of visits, we had to do it virtually, of course. And so we're almost done. Essentially, our due diligence focuses on 4 areas. We look at the purpose of the charity, and we seek to answer to the question, is the charity responding to a well-defined need? We look at impact. Is the charity achieving results? People, how strong is the leadership of the charity, and how sound is its governance? And finally, finance. We look at how financially secure the charity is. But because of the circumstances, of course, we've had to add a couple of questions. One is the delivery of services. How is COVID impacting the delivery of services, both in the short term, but also potentially in the longer run? And we are looking at whether the charity can sustain the crisis financially. And so we're specifically looking at cash flow. So finally, these discussions with funders and charities also helped us understand where the funding gap is and what we should focus on in terms of funding. So we are offering long-term funding up to 3 years. So what that means is that the grant of about 100,000 will be disbursed over a period of 3 years. And this is to ensure that the charity has a certain amount of security, of financial security, and can focus on delivering services rather than constantly chasing funds. And we'll also be flexible as to whether we offer project funding or core cost funding. Most funders prefer to focus on project funding, and that is because it's well delineated. A project has its own budget, it has a beginning, it has an end, and it's therefore easier to track your granted pounds to the impact, to the results of the project. But that leaves charities really struggling to cover their core costs. Core costs are the costs such as the CEO salary, rent, computers, costs that are across projects, and without which you cannot have a sound and strong charity that can deliver impact. So we'll be giving the choice to the charity to choose either project funding or core cost funding. But this is really central to our approach. We are looking beyond project. We are looking at the whole organization, and we want to fund what it takes to make it stronger and to make it able to better serve its clients. And I hope that you will join us. As a member of Impact 100, you'll get to vote on which charity receives our collective funds, and you'll get a chance to make an impact in the women and girls sector in London. Thank you.
With that, we'd like to open up if anybody has any questions for any of the executive committee or Erica and Lani. If you could put any questions into the chat function, then I can direct them to the correct people. I think one of the questions that perhaps what did come up was actually around the sort of process a little bit more in terms of when we might be distributing materials about the charities and when the voting might take place. Could I direct that to Joanna, please, about our plan for sending out materials to our members and the voting process, please?
I can take the question if Joanna is...
Yeah, Liz, why don't you take the question?
Okay, right. So as I said, we're almost done with the due diligence. We are going to be able to send information on, sorry, on the charities by the end of May, and we'll give you a week or even a little bit more to review that material. The funding event, the voting event will be the first week of June. So by the end of May, you'll be receiving the information, and voting will be the first week of June. Exact dates we haven't yet set for the voting. Have we? Not yet.
Okay, some questions are coming in thick and fast now. If I could ask, this is a question from Julie McKever. She would like to know, how many charities are we expecting to fund on an annual basis? And also, are there operating costs for Impact 100 itself? And are there any paid staff? So perhaps I could direct that to Erica, please.
Hi there. So we're expecting we're expecting to fund one charity with a significant grant, and then depending on how much we raise, then there's the potential to fund the other two. But we're presenting 3 finalist charities to the broader membership. So and then the idea is that the members will have information, on each of the charities, and be able to have time to sort of review and make a choice as to which one they want to receive the big significant grant up to 100,000.
Do you want me, Erica, to address the second part of that question?
Or you can do that.
Sure. Julie, you were asking about operating costs and full-time employees. We have no full-time employees, and from an operating cost standpoint, we have joined under the auspices of PRISM, the gift fund, where at the moment we've negotiated quite an attractive operating cost that covers all of our accounting, reporting, trustee, organizational requirements. And that runs at a flat about 5% or potentially less of our costs. Additionally, we've been the great beneficiary of pro bono legal counsel, which has been invaluable. And we will obviously attempt to get additional help that way if possible. There are other incremental costs, just simply branding and things like that, but they're quite minor in relation because we are a volunteer organization and we hope to use the services of our members as much as possible.
Thank you, Lani. A couple of more questions related to grants. So Liz, if you could answer these again, please, as well. Fiona would like to know whether national organisations which operate in London are being considered as part of the due diligence process. And also, Emily would like to know a little bit more about our reporting requirements after we have granted.
Right. So the answer to the first question is yes. We are looking at organizations that operate nationally. But in that case, we ask them to direct the funds to London-based services. So in that case, it may become more of a project funding rather than pure core cost funding. But yes, we are looking at charities that operate nationally.
And reporting?
And often, but I'm sorry, I should add, they're all based in London. So that we are able to have visits, well, when we're able to have real visits, but we'll visit with management, meet the volunteers, meet some of their team as well. And the second question was, I'm sorry, remind me?
About our reporting requirements. Reporting requirement,
yes. So because we'll be distributing the funds, well, dispersing the funds over 3 years, we'll ask for reporting. We don't want it to be over onerous. What we will do is, and we've already done that, in the application we've asked the charities to identify what they will report on, and so typically that is it's linked to their results and to their impact. we don't want to add anything else to what they typically are tracking. And in addition to receiving this on paper, I mean, this data, this information, will also be having calls with management on an annual basis.
Thank you. And then a question for Liz about membership from Julie again. Are we hoping that founding members will agree to a multi-year commitment?
Hi, everyone. I'm Liz. I'm the membership chair. Thank you all for being here. And to answer Julie's question, yes, that would be an amazing, like, yes, we are hoping to offer multi-year commitments, and we think it's important to have a little bit of continuity among the membership. And I think once the experience has been, once everyone has this experience, they would certainly want to continue, especially to give grants to new grantees, but also to follow along with what's been going on with the previous year's recipients and find out what they've been doing. So we are planning on offering options for, you know, a one-year membership and then a multiple year membership. So I'm glad you're thinking that way.
Are there any other questions at this point? Oh, I think we're ready.
I think there was one more question from Lauren about plans to fundraise outside the initial 100 member group. This is Erica, and yes, we definitely are looking to fundraise outside the first 100. I mean, we're hoping to grow, you know, to grow and bring on more members as we, you know, as we become more established. So absolutely. But you know, before we close, I just wanted to introduce a couple people, because when we, you know, the term crack team, I think is an understatement for this leadership team that we have. And there are a couple people who I just want to make sure that you know. One is Vanessa Boz, who's heading up our marketing and partnerships. Give a wave, Vanessa. And Michelle Campbell, who's our events chair. You can wave, Michelle. Michelle, okay. So, and then Joanna Riley, who couldn't, yeah, who wasn't speaking, but there she's, yeah, so she's working on the grant. So thank you so much again for your interest and your consideration. I know, you know, most of us need to run off, but, you know, please be in touch with us if you'd like any more information. We've recorded this call or this Zoom, and we can send it around to anyone whom you think would be interested. And we're also, of course, happy to chat by phone. Before I close, I wanted to just do one shout out, and I hope she doesn't mind, but Fiona McTaggart joined us on this call. She's one of our founding members. She's a former Labor MP, and she actually was I think pretty much the first person that Lani and I spoke to when we were trying to sort of get advice and just to see, you know, if this is a concept and that would, you know, that would work here in London and in the UK. And Fiona, you know, was very encouraging, and you know, she is a champion, a warrior for women's rights and gender equality. So I just wanted to shout out to her. So, and before I, you know, press end meeting, I also just wanted to leave you with a quote that I love from Melinda Gates, which is, when we invest in women and girls, we're investing in the people who are investing in everyone else. Please stay safe and healthy, and be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.